Shurooq, I'm so thankful to have you here with me and that you are going to be part of NFT London. As you and I jumped on to get ready for our conversation, I was telling you, and I'll tell the world, I just think you are a courageous and very, very important artist, bringing the East and West together, exposing to your culture some of the things that are taboo and paying some consequences for that. But also, you're a forerunner and you're creating a new path for other artists like yourself to feel confident that somebody else has gone before them and lit the way. So not everybody that's a part of the NFT NYC community is familiar with you and your work. Maybe you can just start by giving us a little background on who you are as a visual artist, and then we can talk a bit about what you've been doing with NFTs and your pursuit in Web3.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me, first of all. It's truly a pleasure to be here. Much gratitude to you. Well, I've been a traditional artist for 30 years. I started out in my early 20s with my first solo exhibition, and for the next 2 decades or so, I was just exploring, my voice as an artist, dabbling in different mediums and such. However, as I was going through a divorce in 2009, I found myself being a single mother with 4 children and no financial security, and found myself very ostracized by society as a divorcee in the Middle Eastern Muslim society. It was kind of a hard pill to swallow that in that day and age at the time, which we consider, the 2000s, still modern times, we would assume that there was the stigma attached to being a divorced single mom. The anger I felt at the people's treatment of myself. For example, something as simple as trying to rent a home for me and my kids was impossible. No one would rent to me as a divorced woman. I would go door to door and not be able to find a door allowing me to rent unless I had a marriage certificate. Simple things like this without going into too much details, but that anger and frustration I felt, I put it all on canvas. And that's kind of what the first exhibition that got shut down by the Secret Service was called It's a Man's World. And it was a cliche of a title. I wanted it to be a cliche of a title, to really be literal, so literal that it's in your face, you can't escape what it means. And it was about the patriarchal society that I was in, and it was about, the hypocrisy that I was facing, me and many other women were facing. And so I explored that moral hypocrisy, religious hypocrisy, sexual hypocrisy, gender hypocrisy. All of it was, I kind of just vented it all out on canvas. After 3 hours of the opening of that show, the Secret Service came in with the Ministry of Information, the Ministry of Commerce, and they threw people out of the gallery, locked the doors, took me to the back room, investigated me, started the interrogation. Thereafter ensued a very long, arduous, traumatic period in my life for months, where they were trying to prove that I was doing something illegal and should go to jail. And I was trying to prove that I was adhering to the Constitution of Kuwait. I have done nothing illegal. This is simply art. And the Constitution allows us freedom of expression in the arts. Of course, there's that gray area where it says, as long as it doesn't impinge on, the morality of the country or something along those lines, and people play on that in that gray area. And they were saying, I do. I am encouraging society to be immoral. Thereafter, after that, there was a day that my daughter came to me and said, Mommy, why are people saying your work is pornographic? Because she couldn't pronounce the word pornographic, although there was nothing pornographic. And something clicked in me and I said, okay, I like this. this is a word I could use because it's sort of a nonsensical word that doesn't exist, so they can't actually censor it, but they know what I mean when I use it. So I decided to do a new collection called Pornographics, and went even further in confronting the hypocrisy and the patriarchy and exploring all the sexual, religious, and moral hypocrisies in my society. I started showing the works from 2009 to 2020 outside of Kuwait. I showed in London, I showed in New York, and Italy. I became the first artist from Kuwait to exhibit at the Venice Biennale. It was a huge dream of mine as a traditional artist. I became the first Kuwaiti artist to exhibit, have my work auctioned at Christie's, another big dream of mine. So there was a lot of firsts, and I ended up being listed as one of the most influential people in Kuwait. And, I just kept doing what I do outside of Kuwait, even though I was living in the country. I was living in the lion's mouth because of my children. I could not leave because my children were there. And if I left, then my ex would take my children. So I had to remain in Kuwait, painting in my studio in Kuwait, but shipping the paintings outside of Kuwait. I could not show them in my country. This continued until eventually in January 2020, the exhibition that I was preparing for was based on Diane Ackerman poem title called "Like Russian Dolls, We Nest in Previous Selves." And that exhibition was very immersive, very theatrical. There was video, there was pen and ink, acrylic painting, video, a mannequin, sculpture. It was a story. So you kind of walked in and really immersed yourself in society and really felt the hypocrisy that I was experiencing and other women were experiencing. So it was quite powerful in that sense. And I ended up having that exhibition in Kuwait because I was invited to show it, and I was told that it would be safe this time, that the country has progressed, it's changed, it would be okay to show the work this time. And it wasn't. It was, again, shut down by the Secret Service and the Ministry of Information. And I was, going to undergo interrogation and investigation once more. If it weren't for the fact that COVID hit, I was saved by COVID because the airport in Kuwait closed a couple of weeks after that. And so that's it. And I was stuck at home like the rest of everyone else on planet Earth. And it was in the year of 2020 that I discovered NFTs. So then I saw, okay, there is something called NFT art that is a new technology that can be used for traditional art or digital art. And I can actually mint my work on the blockchain, have even my own smart contract. And best of all, it can't be censored by my government. So this was an aha moment for me. And I thought, wow, ultimate freedom in creativity, expression. I won't be persecuted anymore. And it was just a gateway to freedom for me. And that's what really NFTs meant for me when I discovered them.
Wow, I'm so glad that you took some time to walk through your story a bit. There's so many things our community would love to learn from you, but I want to have you speak to censorship for a moment. Being in Kuwait, Ministry of Information, right? Here in America, there's some churning around censorship and the whole idea of like a Ministry of Truth type of thing. This is going to be happening all throughout Europe, and people in power always can try to take more power and try to stifle all the population, including the artists. Yeah. So can you share with your friends in the West, because a lot of our audience are folks in the West, a bit more clarity on the danger when an artist is not free to create as they want to, but are censored, because that does happen more often in the East. And could you give us a little more insight? And is there anything that we in the West can do? What can we do to protect ourselves and hold on to the amount of freedom artists have currently? What can we do to maybe grow that? And how can we be a friend to the East and provide strength and support to artists in the East that maybe currently are being censored? So can we talk about that for just a moment?
Yeah, well, the danger of censorship is the fact that you have a party controlling other parties. So you've got whoever is the censor has so much power and so much control in what the rest of society sees. For example, the censor here would let's take the example of a movie, the cinema. The censor would literally cut scenes from the movie and choose which scenes to cut. Now, this is a person. There's no criteria he's following. And I say he because there are no she censors in our region. They're always men. So they cut whichever scenes they want. And usually they cut the scenes that include, obviously, either sex or simply kissing. But they keep all the violent scenes. Any gore, any violence, any killing, they keep it. Anything to do with homosexuality, they will cut. Love, they will cut. Kissing, they will cut. Anything to do with interrelationships, no matter whether those relationships are straight or not straight, it doesn't matter. Just any kind of personal relationships, they will cut. But when it comes to violence and war and murder and, abuse and beating up people, beating up women, all the way to the edge of, rape, they won't show, but they will show the beating up, all of that. So what you're essentially doing for this society, for the masses, is you're kind of brainwashing society. You're brainwashing the young generation growing in this society that violence is okay and love is not okay. And we use the word haram and halal in Arabic. The haram is the forbidden, the big X, and the halal is like halal meat, the acceptable. It's okay, So this is very dangerous because you are literally brainwashing the society into becoming an aggressive society rather than a loving society that sees love as something normal. They're kind of twisting it and turning it into something dirty, whereas violence is not dirty. Violence is okay because we can see it everywhere in all the movies and all the series. It's fine to watch, even if you're 7 years old. That's dangerous. The other danger, of course, is that you are stifling the thinkers. So what's happening in those societies is all the thinkers and creators and philosophers are leaving. They're not staying. They're all leaving the countries. And so who's left behind? Who's left behind are either the people who are oppressed and for whatever reason can't leave, like I can't leave. People will look at me and say, you're a powerful, strong woman. You wouldn't, I don't consider you an oppressed person. But I can't leave my country. There are reasons why I can't leave. So the people who can't leave are left behind. And, and that's an important point. There's a lot of implications here because then you've got the masses as well. What's happening to them? So this society is regressing. And this is exactly what's happening. We are seeing it exactly what's happening without getting into too much politics about what's going on in Kuwait. That's exactly what's happening. It was way more progressive in the 70s. In the 70s, we had Andy Warhol in Kuwait come visit Kuwait in the 70s. The great Andy Warhol came here and went to all the art exhibitions, had an exhibition, was greeted by the ministers, was greeted by the people. Now that's impossible. You can't even have a concert in Kuwait. It's illegal to have music concerts, dance, anything that's celebratory. New Year's parties, illegal. So it's really about it's dangerous. So yeah.
So when all these things are happening, the culture is regressing, the culture is conditioning, or those in power conditioning the people. Violence acceptable, intimacy unacceptable. Pain and turmoil in relationship normal. Connection and love in relationship abnormal. So these things are regressing society, not just in Kuwait, but there's other similar societies that are dealing with similar types of things right now. And then you find out during the pandemic, you have your art exhibit shut down. Those paintings behind you are some of the paintings that were part of that. Now, pandemic happens and you find out about NFTs, digital art that is Armageddon proof in the sense of, it's digital. It can be put on a ledger. It doesn't have to be this big painting, in a room. You find out about this and walk us through, before we wrap up our conversation, what has been something that you've experienced with Web3 and NFT art that was way beyond your wildest imagination? What's a thing or some things that you think to yourself, looking back at your experience the last year or two, wow, I wouldn't have anticipated the market to respond this way, or I wouldn't have anticipated the ability to do this technically? Or talk to us a bit about that, please.
Yeah, I mean, it opens so many doors because, first of all, people always say, okay, but you're a traditional artist. And the thing is, yes, I'm a traditional artist and I paint, I've got my studio, but here's the thing, like, I can't take my studio with me everywhere. And if I start, working with digital art, digital painting, I can take my studio with me everywhere. And this is an amazing revelation. That's one thing that occurred to me. For the last few months, I've been so busy traveling for, I was a judge on the only woman judge on a panel of judges for an Arab's Talent competition for the disabled, which is kind of like America's Got Talent. I had my golden buzzer and everything, and it was great fun. I took my iPad with me and I was painting daily in my hotel room, in the airport, on the airplane. I was productive. My painting didn't stop. As an artist, I was producing on a daily basis. I can't do that if I didn't merge into that digital sphere, that digital realm. I could not do it because I can't take my physical gigantic studio with me wherever I go, obviously. Can't take my canvases with me on the road. That's one thing. The other thing is that it doesn't take away from your work as a traditional artist. For example, I have a collection that they were originally acrylic paintings, but I scanned them high resolution and uploaded them and minted them as NFTs. But they are only available in digital form as NFTs. And that's what makes them valuable. Otherwise, you have to be owning the original canvas, which are already sold. Then I ventured into actually creating digital art for the Web3. And I just taught myself. I got Procreate, I got my iPad, downloaded, all sorts of gazillion brushes, and I just started painting over the last 2-3 years, since 2020. And I kept getting better and better. And it's wonderful to see yourself as an artist, even at a mature age, that you can keep evolving and keep progressing artistically, technically, and see where your technique goes and where your lines go, where your brush strokes go, where your ideas and themes go, because you're still exploring your own limitations. You have no limitations because this new technology is taking you even further beyond what you thought you could do as just an acrylic painter. It doesn't take away from it, it adds to it. So it's even more, wonderful and more magnanimous in that sense. So yeah, I think that's the great thing about it. It is a technology that is inevitable. So for all the naysayers, it's here to stay. Take it or leave it. It's here to stay. For me as an artist, I love it because it really adds to my oeuvre. It really adds to my work. It really adds to my journey, my technique. It doesn't take away from anything. It only adds value.
Well, you certainly have used it in a very valuable way. And I think the world today is better for it. But I really think that so much of your impact will be felt as time goes on. So we know at NFT.London and the NFT NYC team, we really honor you. We love your story. We want people to hear your story. We're happy to have you come and share at NFT.London. And I look forward to seeing you there. Anybody that's watching our conversation, thanks for your attention. And we hope to see you in London, November 3rd and 4th. Shurooq, before we end, what would be a great way for people to learn more about you, take a look at your art, stay in touch? Please let us know.
Well, I've got my profile on Twitter and Instagram at Shurooq Amin. They're both the same. It's just my name at Shurooq Amin on Twitter and Instagram. Those are really the best ways. My daughter wants to do a TikTok for me. She wants to follow me around and do her own videos of me behind the scenes. So that's coming soon, let's say, because I'm really not into that at all. But if she wants to do it, let her do it, so.
Well, I imagine there's a bunch of people that would enjoy that. So go, daughter, go. And for all of the artists that are your peers, you impact the world, but of course you impact your own family. And so I think that's great that they get to be involved. All right, everybody, I'll be back again soon with another one of these fireside chats.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.